What has gone on within this storm kind of falling apart. You'll notice that's in eastern parts of Grayson County, moving into Hart County at this point. And then we've got another strong storm. This is going to be just west of Hodgenville. I'm going to zoom into that one real quick, and we'll be able to show this one to you in a little better definition here. As we take the radar and we go up closer to Hodgenville here, you'll see the cluster of lightning strikes. Often you'll get quite a few lightning strikes in a strengthening thunderstorm, and that's what you need to keep an eye on, as well as the turning winds or the wind rotation in the atmosphere within these storms here. I'm going to zoom in on these storms a little bit more, and then we're going to take another look at the inside of these when it comes to wind and what we may be seeing hail-wise. Hail is also another threat that we're concerned about today. Also, here's this Hodgenville storm, or the storm getting ready to move into Hodgenville, I should say. It's just east of Glendale. Glendale and E-Town, you folks are now not in the line of fire for these storms. E-Town, you're technically under that severe thunderstorm warning outlined here in yellow, but that will likely be trimmed back so that you folks won't be in that any longer. The storm has now passed to your east here. What we're going to do is we're going to switch radar products here, take our velocity and put that on instead so you can see where this is. First off, here's that area of rotation near Roanoke that's moving eastbound into northern parts of LaRue County. It's that very northern triangular tip of LaRue County that we're most concerned about here. Just before you get to New Haven, Roanoke, you're under the gun right now. You need to make sure you're in your tornado safe place. That cluster of lightning strikes we were tracking moving into Hodgenville does not have anything on radar, at least concerning with it when it comes to the wind, so that's some good news there. So this is kind of a one storm situation right now where we're monitoring just one segment that has a little bit of an embedded supercell structure in it within this big line of thunderstorms moving through. I'm going to go home here and put the radar back on so you all can see what's happening not only down in central and southern Kentucky, but also what's happening back here in Louisville and parts of southern Indiana. First off, if you are in Louisville, you're fine. Looks like we've got just a few isolated showers to go for the rest of the day. Southern Indiana, very similar story. No severe weather threat from Hardinsburg to Brandenburg to Louisville to LaGrange to Carrollton and north of that line. So all of southern Indiana is immune from this. We're in good shape up there. This is literally just central and southern Kentucky. That is why we don't have the alert day designation. This is going to be a very quick situation and a very limited situation where it's literally going to be mainly south of the western Kentucky and Bluegrass Parkways here. Looks like we've got that severe thunderstorm warning continuing here for parts of LaRue and Nelson counties until 2 o'clock Eastern time. They just updated the look of that polygon that you see down here. We're going to zoom back into this here as well. Tawana Andrew is here today. And Tawana, are you seeing anything when it comes to reports on these storms that are moving through central and southern Kentucky?
No, not just yet, which is certainly some good news, but this is still something that we'll have to continue to monitor because, of course, this is going into some very warm, moist air right now. So these areas have temperatures near 80 degrees. If you've been watching us for the past couple of days, certainly this is something that we were talking about, that all of this fuel for these storms. So that is where we are in the moment. So as Ryan just mentioned, that severe thunderstorm warning is going to continue for portions of very southern Nelson County into LaRue County. So that's that flashing yellow that you see on your screen. That is going to be until 2 p.m. Eastern time as we continue to keep an eye on that severe thunderstorm warning, of course, that goes along with the tornado warning that we're continuing to keep an eye on. So still a lot to watch in this area as these storms are rolling on through. Of course, there's plenty of fuel out ahead of them, so we're keeping an eye on those of you in Washington County and very northern portions of Marion County as well, and even keeping an eye on those of you further to the south into LaRue County where some more of those storms are building. So just looking at potential reports coming in terms of wind reports, not seeing any of those, so that's some good news so far. Some hail reports as well, keeping an eye on those, not seeing anything with that. So the hail, the wind, those are going to be some of the main threats that we're going to be continuing to keep an eye on. And of course, we've been talking about this severe threat for the past couple of days, that potential for some of those stronger storms. And Ryan, we're seeing these storms exactly where we have that slight risk of severe weather, exactly where we haven't seen any rain so far today, and exactly where those temperatures are near 80 degrees. So literally the prime, really just area and ingredients for these storms to fuel and to feed off of as we head into the next couple of hours. And thankfully, this doesn't look to last very long. They are booking it off towards the east. So that is helping us out, certainly in terms of timing as we get closer to 4 p.m. A lot of this looks to wrap up. So thankfully, this is not a long-winded scenario. Yeah,
so far, it looks like this is going to unfold exactly as forecast. The only little minor change there is that these things have accelerated by about an hour. That gets us out of programming here by about about 4 p.m. at the latest, which is good. So this won't take all too much longer, but we're going to be here for most of the afternoon keeping track of these storms. Of course, the main threat right now is the tornado warning, and that, of course, goes until 2:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time here. Loretto, Manton, New Haven, Culvertown, Nelsonville, Roanoke, all of you folks need to be in your tornado safe place right this second. If you're just joining us, this tornado warning does extend all the way east to just west of Springfield. Springfield is not in the warning yet, but if you're in Springfield, Kentucky, keep this in mind. You may have a tornado warning here shortly. I'll put another a way to see these warnings on the screen here with the big board. This kind of just lists them here. And you see we've got 38 minutes left on this very long-winded tornado warning here, and then a severe thunderstorm warning here until looks like 2 o'clock for parts of Hardin, LaRue, and Nelson. That has about another 23 minutes left on it. The current watch situation has a severe thunderstorm watch until 8 p.m. Eastern for counties well south of Louisville, here shaded in yellow. This will likely get peeled back early for most of these counties. This stuff's going to be mainly out of here by 4 p.m. After 4 p.m. Eastern, we should be in pretty good shape. All right, what we're going to do is go right back to where we were there on the radar. It may take a second to load here, but nonetheless, we want to show you the latest scans of what's going on within the storm as it is closing in on New Haven. Want to make sure the folks in the population down there know what's going to happen with this as it moves in. Of course, about 1,500 people are under this tornado warning at this point, according to the U.S. Census data that you see on your screen there. All right, let's pop on this velocity scope here, and you'll see this is not a very bright couplet. What you usually are looking for when you're looking for intense rotation in these storms are bright yellow or bright greens and reds kind of together in a very tight manner, and we just don't have that. Well, we've got the green and red. You'll notice it's kind of a diffuse, sort of broad look to it at this time. So nothing is overly concerning at the extreme moment that we're in, but as we go through time, what may happen is that the rotation aloft in this may start to make its way down to the surface. So this is sort of a preliminary tornado warning saying, hey, this thing could go tornado at any minute. So we have to treat it as if a tornado is ongoing right now, even though we don't have confirmation of that at this point. You'll note that Tawana earlier said that there have been no reports out of these storms of either damage or funnel clouds or anything like that. That continues to this moment right here. We are in constant communication with the National Weather Service, and they are continuing to monitor reports that come into them as well. So we've got feelers in all sorts of directions here to make sure that when that information comes in, you'll get it here within seconds. New scan of the radar has just come in here. I'll pop off the wind velocity and go right back to where we were, and you'll see now that the storm is moving into Culvertown. New Haven, be in your tornado safe place right now. Right along 31E is where we're seeing the storm move into. And again, for you folks downstream in Loretto, you may not have even heard a rumble of thunder yet, but this is moving in your direction. You need to be in your safe place right now to make sure that you and your family are safe as this tornado warned storm does move here in your direction. Let's pop on the hail here and see if we've got any hail within these storms. That is definitely a possibility today with the amount of heat energy and instability that's just east of these storms. You know, we've got 80-degree air, as what Tawana was mentioning, in southern Kentucky. Now, while that may seem counterintuitive that you need warm air for hail, it helps these storms build in height to loft the hail further up into them to give us the potential, of course, to see larger size hail. So what we've got right now on the Storm Core scanner is nothing really alarming here, so I don't think this is a huge hail maker yet. At worst, probably pea-size or penny-size hail, but we haven't even had reports of that just yet here. So we'll continue to monitor that. And, of course, the tornado warning that goes until 2:15 Eastern here. We're going to get back to the radar here, and I do want to put on some of the reports to see if we've had any of these citizen reports here from MPING. We have the power now to display on television, one of the first TV stations to do so, the hail, flood, wind, rain reports here from the MPING project. This is a project started by the University of Oklahoma. It allows the public to submit hail reports for real-time dissemination to the National Weather Service and their broadcast partners here. And so far, we have not seen anything alarming in that way just yet here. So let's back up for just a second here. If you're just joining us, it's 1:41 p.m. We are covering up NBC News Daily here for a tornado warning that has been issued for parts of LaRue, Marion, Nelson, and Washington counties until 2:15 Eastern. This is not for the Louisville area. This is not for southern Indiana. Basically, if you're not in one of these counties here shaded in yellow where the severe thunderstorm watch is, you're in good shape. Notice that's about 2/3 of our area. Kind of trying to be glass half full here for you folks up that way. But of course, the 1/3 of our area across southern Kentucky, especially south of the Bluegrass and western Kentucky parkways here, this is the trouble zone until about, say, 4 o'clock Eastern. These storms are moving pretty quickly here, so even by 3 o'clock Eastern, we may be able to clear several of these counties out of a risk, which is some pretty good news there. All right, let's get back to our warning here and see if we've got any new information coming in. You see the lightning strikes from about the last, say, 5 or so minutes. Quite a few lightning strikes near Roanoke. We've got additional lightning strikes near New Haven. One just popped up there in northern LaRue County near New Haven. Let's zoom in a little bit more and give you some street names of where the dangerous part of these storms are now moving through. Again, this is New Haven that needs to be in their tornado safe spot immediately here. As we zoom in even more, you'll notice Athertonville on the screen here. We've, of course, got Yosemite, where the Yosemite, the monks are right now. So those folks need to be in their tornado safe spot. New Haven, new radar scan just came in, and you'll notice that we've got New Haven right in the zone here where the storm is over. So you need to be already in your tornado safe zone, your tornado safe spot in New Haven. I'm going to put on the radar velocity here so we can see where the winds are turning in the atmosphere right over New Haven. And yeah, this is pretty much the zone right here moving into New Haven proper. This is just south of Blue Gap, but Blue Gap, you need to be in your tornado safe spot right now because it is too close to call. Athertonville, same story. Yosemite, same story there. The Monastery, all those folks need to be in their safe spot immediately. You've got Route 247 there and the intersection with 247 as it moves toward the 457 area. You need to be in your tornado safe spot in that zone too. This is sort of the immediacy of where we're seeing the rotation in this storm moving into. So this is now crossing from LaRue County into very southern parts of areas of Nelson County at this time. All right, so this is exactly where we're seeing this. We're going to pop on, of course, a little bit more of a zoom here so you can see exactly where we're going here. We've got about a looks like 11 mile per hour gate-to-gate shear on this thing, which basically means there's some rotation there, but it's not a ton at this point. You'll notice we've got High Street, we've got Cecil Hill Road, Peak Road, Vidito Road. We're giving you some of the exact street names of where this is moving into. Areas near Newton Valley Lane, you need to be in your tornado safe spot. Or 31E and 52 come together right in the center of New Haven. This is where the problem zone is. At any point, this may try to tighten up and put down a tornado, but we just don't have that confirmation yet that either one, it's exactly going to do that, or two, that it has done that at this time. What may be happening here, and this is a good thing, is we may have a little bit of warm air that's kind of trapped here within these storms that's not allowing them to grow as much and execute their full potential here today. That's a good thing. Let's hope that continues, but our fear is that the areas east of these storms where we see this 80-degree air may act as fuel for them to really start to pulse up. All right, so we've gone way far in this storm. So if you're in New Haven, we've just given you the exactness of where this is going to be hitting here. But as we zoom out, you'll notice that Lebanon, Campbellsville, Greensburg, Columbia, you are still under the gun, even though you're not under a warning at this time. Well, as soon as I say that, here comes a brand new severe thunderstorm warning. Those zones, though, are, of course, in the zone for where additional severe weather may occur. So we've got this new severe thunderstorm warning. You see it flashing here. That little black outline means that a tornado is possible. So this is kind of what I like to call a pre-tornado warning or a junior tornado warning, meaning that there's not enough confidence for a tornado that they want to put the tornado warning tag on there, but they want to say, hey, at least the tornado is possible. That is Lebanon, Raywick, areas just west of Gravel Switch, Springfield proper. You are in this severe thunderstorm warning. And this thing goes until 2:30 p.m. All these storms are moving east about 30 to 40 miles per hour at this point. So they're moving at a decent clip, but not quick enough. We want to get these things out of here as quickly as possible. You see Lyons also on the screen as well. You folks are under that tornado warning still. And that, of course, goes until 2:15 p.m. The current time is 1:45 p.m., so about 30 minutes left on the tornado warning. No new reports coming in yet, but Tawana, have you seen anything different from all the radar products that we have and, of course, our communications with the National Weather Service?
I have not, and that's certainly some good news, but we're certainly going to continue to keep an eye on that small portion of wave country. So for a lot of you, you're probably like, what is going on? Why are they right now cutting in? Because all the way back towards Louisville up to Oldham County, I've been seeing your comments and questions on Facebook as well. So if you are watching on your phones maybe, or you're at work, hey, we're keeping an eye on everything for you. But yes, we're keeping a close eye, of course, on everything happening for those of you south of the parkways where that very warm air is in place. But taking a quick wider view, you can see towards the metro. We are dry in southern Indiana, drying out right now in Oldham County. So for those of you further to the north of the parkways, your severe threat, your rain threat for basically the rest of the day is over, but we do have to keep an eye on some of the heavier rain and the gustier winds. And something I've been watching closely is some of the stronger winds trying to push through portions of LaRue County. You're not quite into that severe thunderstorm warning, but certainly seeing some of those gusty winds in the Buffalo Leafdale area. So for those of you towards Magnolia, Mount Sherman, just a heads up, one of those gustier, stronger thunderstorms, not severe, but stronger thunderstorms, is moving your way. So giving you a heads up with that, and that will be moving towards Wards and Bloyd as well. So we'll have to keep an eye on those spots in northern portions of Greene County as that little pocket of some heavier rain and some of those stronger winds is moving towards that spot. So a lot to watch, of course, as we continue through the afternoon. It's currently 1:47, and we have until 2:15 p.m. on this tornado warning. And of course, we have the severe thunderstorm warning that we're watching for portions of, as we've been talking about, portions of Marion County and Washington County for this afternoon. So Ryan, it's been quiet with the rain for areas further to the north, and that certainly helped to reduce that severe threat for areas further to the north. But since it's been warm, it's been dry, it's been sunny in areas further to the south of the parkways, that's why we're ending up in the situation that we're in right now. I know a lot of people are probably like, what's going on? And trying to tune in right now. So for anyone just hopping on, we are dealing with one tornado warning and multiple severe thunderstorm warnings in place across parts of south central Kentucky.
We're getting reports, Tawana, that the tornado sirens are going off in New Haven. That's a good thing.
They
should be going off in southern parts of Nelson County right as we speak. So Tawana's going to keep an eye on the reports and some of the other storms that we've got. I'm going to focus and zero in on this tornado warning right now. We want to make sure that we don't let anything escape us here as we continue our coverage here for the next at least few minutes or so. Let's zoom on into this warning here. You see that uptick in lightning over the last 5 minutes in this. That is a concerning sign. And of course, New Haven, you're in the thick of it right now, but you'll note that the tornado warning has been redrawn so that most of it is now east of New Haven proper, and that's a good thing there because the rotation is now moving a little closer to northwestern parts of Marion County. So what's next up here? Loretto, you need to be in your tornado safe place immediately. I'm going to move the radar around here so we can get a better idea of what communities are going to be impacted by this here. I'm going to scoop this up and move this way. You'll note that Bardstown's on the screen. Now, while you may note that we've got southern parts of Nelson County in the tornado warning, Bardstown is not within this warning. Remember, these tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings can encompass parts of counties and not the whole county, and that's what's happening here. This is a relatively small area with only 662 people in it right now because New Haven's been cut out of this because it's now east of you guys that are in this warning at this time here. So what I'm going to do is put on the velocity scope. Like we were explaining a little bit earlier here, this is the crucial tool that allows us to see where the rotating winds in the atmosphere are within these storms. And you'll note that the rotation is now just east of New Haven here, but still what I like to call kind of broad or diffuse. This is not what we are typically used to seeing when it comes to a tornado on the ground situation, but this is one of those situations where a tornado could tighten up and get on the ground at any moment here, and that's why we're on the air for the immediacy of this tornado warning. Once again, for Springfield, you guys are under a severe thunderstorm warning, but you need to be on standby in case this tornado warning gets extended east. We have had 0 reports of an on-the-ground tornado with this particular storm. That is not surprising given the radar signature we're seeing right now. But we have to maintain our on-air presence here for folks who are in the path of this warning, despite it not being in the Louisville area. We want to make sure everybody knows exactly what's going on. So Manton, Loretto, areas now east of New Haven. If you are in downtown New Haven, give it about 5 more minutes just for safety here, and you should be able to get out of your tornado safe spot, all right? The warning is technically east of you now, but I want to get some of these nastier lightning strikes and super heavy rain out of your area just before you start to emerge from the basement or your other tornado safe place. Speaking of tornado safe place, if you were in Manton, if you're in Loretto, you got to be there right now, all right? This is going to be the lowest level of your home. If you're in an apartment complex, it's the first floor of it. If you can get to it, in the center of that structure, if you can find a place in there. If you've made friends with neighbors on the first floor of your apartment complex, say, hey, guess what? Tornado warning. Can I come in here and hide in your bathroom for a little bit? That's going to be your best course of action. You want to get on the lowest floor, away from doors and windows, and in the center of your home. If you are in a mobile home, Now, look, we have a ton of respect for folks in mobile homes here, all right? This is a very economical, easy way to live, but you need to make sure that you get to a structure that has a foundation, all right? We're talking a house down the street, a community center, heck, even just a convenience store down the street. Say, hey, I got to get in here and hide from this tornado for a little bit. Is that okay? And yes, absolutely. You need to make sure that you're in a sturdy structure to ride out this storm. Even though we don't have confirmation that there is a tornado on the ground with this at this time, it could be any minute. So I'm talking to Loretto, I'm talking to Manton right now. You need to make sure that you are in your tornado safe spot, all right? Let's pan this over a little bit and get the warning more into the center of the screen here. And then we're going to zoom in a little bit and show you exactly where this is going to hit, because I know a lot of folks may not be familiar with the geography around them, but you may know your neighborhood a little bit better than the rest. So as we zoom in toward Loretto and Manton, we'll be able to put more roads on here and give you a better idea. So we've got Route 49, we've got Holy Cross in this tornado warning. If you're in Holy Cross, you need to be in your tornado safe spot right now. The rotation, even though it's broad, is now moving into Holy Cross along 527. So where 527 and 52 come together just east of Danton and west of Loretto here, that's where we have sort of a tornado danger zone at this time with that spinning wind, that rotating wind that's moving in with this storm. 49 and areas near 49 and 52, that's right in the heart of Loretto. You need to be in your tornado safe zone. If you're near Burke Spring, you need to be in your tornado safe spot. Gandertown as well as Nerix, you need to be in your tornado safe spot. This tornado warning goes until 2:15. This is a very long duration tornado warning, so we still have quite some time on this thing, all right? So we're still looking at about 20 minutes of at least 20 minutes of tornado warning coverage here should this thing not get canceled. A wider view shows us that we have the potential for, of course, these storms to continue moving through parts of Lebanon, Campbellsville, areas near Columbia and Greensburg as well. Some pretty nasty looking thunderstorms down that way. There are no warnings for the very southern edge of that thunderstorm complex at this time, but you'll note that if you are down in Greene, Taylor, and Adair counties, you need to be watching out for this till about, say, 4 o'clock Eastern there. Tawana Andrew is in right now. Tawana, you're keeping track of some of these other storms and the reports from them. What have you been seeing?
Yeah, Kevin Harney just walked in the building and just told me that he talked to his family in New Haven. So good news there is that there's no reports of any damage in that area, and that is what we like to hear. Also continue to keep an eye on some of the other areas. We've gotten information from LaRue County Dispatch. Right now they're saying that everything is A-OK in LaRue County, so that's also some good news there. And Kentucky State Police in Columbia, they're saying it's sunny, and yeah, further to the south, for those of you in parts of Greene, Taylor County, Adair County, you've been seeing sunshine and very warm temperatures for most of the day, but now we're getting into that point where the storms are moving towards you. So while you are sunny right now, I need you to be weather aware. I need you to be paying attention to the forecast because these storms are rolling towards you. So yes, we've been talking about this tornado warning that is moving past the New Haven area and pushing towards Holy Cross and Loretto. But for those of you further to the north, just to the north of that tornado warning, just to the east of Bardstown, so towards the Botland area, the Maud area, just a heads up, you are still have to deal with some of the strong wind gusts as well embedded in some of these storms, and that's something important to keep in mind as well as we continue throughout the rest of the afternoon. It's not just a tornado warning, but also watching the straight line wind threat with this, and that in itself can cause some damage. That's something that we'll have to keep an eye on closely as these storms continue to march off towards the east and southeast. So just seeing a lot of the strength of these storms moving into the very primed atmosphere with the warm weather, with of course that moisture in those areas. So that is why we're continuing to keep an eye on this severe threat over the next couple of hours. Kevin?
All right, Tawana, thanks. Heard you guys talking about New Haven earlier. I've been on the phone with my family down there. My brother's over at Loretto right now, and all eyes are on it. There have been no damage reports, at least that we've heard of at this point. And we've been on the phone with a lot of folks down there. Still seeing the tornado warning, very minor rotation with this storm, and that's what we've noted. That's going to be the case. This storm is, I mean, it's sort of torn apart, but the fact is is, even with a little bit of rotation, moving into the environment that we've been explaining, into an area that's been untouched. I mean, it's been raining in Louisville all morning. That has not been the case to our south. Temperatures very warm down there. When we look at our scopes, we can look at that velocity scope and show you exactly what that looks like. And again, when we dive into that, still a lot of lightning, still some minor rotation. You can see the thunderstorm warning coming out surrounding that. So again, while we have the severe thunderstorm warning with the tornado possible tag in it with a 60-mile-per-hour wind, again, it is that tornado warning that caught everybody's attention because every alert goes off, the sirens go off in the towns, and we've seen that time and again. So that's what we've noted that's going on to our south. That is a small part of the viewing area, however, a very important part, not just because I have family there, but because everybody in the viewing area is important. And you can see the lightning intensity there. I mean, just a ton of lightning with that storm moving through parts of Nelson County and over into Marion County. I'm going to put the radar into motion. You can see how it's unfolded just over the course of the last couple of hours. As the storms move into that untapped environment, they just have nothing to hold them back. So they grow, and as they grow in height, they grow in strength, both wind coming into the storm and going out of the storm. So we still have some strong winds pushing through. You can see, in addition to the tornado warning, we have several severe thunderstorm warnings. Those outlines in black indicate that even with a severe thunderstorm warning, a tornado is possible. And that just means we have enough shear in the atmosphere. The atmospheric conditions are right to see some of these storms spin. If we were to see a tornado, it would be a low-end tornado, but nonetheless strong enough to do some damage. We've seen that time and again. Let me stop the radar. I'm going to zoom back in. We go to stop. Let's go to zoom. We'll zoom back into that storm down to the south. Again, looking at what we need to see, and that is if there's any tightening of that rotation. So I'm just going to zoom in to the area of concern. All of southern Indiana in the clear. Louisville in the clear. Bullitt County, Spencer County, Hardin County, all in the clear. The only issues that we're going to have is going to be south of the parkways at this point. So that's south of Bardstown, that's Lebanon, Springfield, moving down into parts of Greene, Taylor, Adair counties. If you were watching yesterday, we said, all right, it's areas along and south of the parkways we're going to have to watch between 1 and 5. Well, it'll all be well out of here before 5 o'clock this evening. But we do have the tornado warning. Again, I'm going to zoom in even more. We're just going to take the tornado warning, passing by Gethsemane, so it's already past the Abbey. It's past New Haven. If you are listening to me and you're in western parts of Loretto, so that would mean Raywick, Holy Cross, Loretto, pushing over toward Lebanon, you are the folks that have to take the warning seriously. Get in your tornado safe place. Be there until this storm can pass through. It's moving through Loretto now. Again, be trimming back this warning soon because it's pretty much moving out of Nelson County, now squarely into parts of Marion County. All right, so Marion, Washington, still in the warning. 2:15 is the expiration time. Let's look at the velocity. We go to our scopes. Well, in fact, let me just pop on the base velocity here. We'll go to the radar scope, and then we'll just go into the velocity tool. Let's just take a look. We should see some rotation very close to Loretto at this point. Again, it's very weak. We see it there crossing this county line. Holy Cross, powerful winds. That's the brighter red color on the radar moving into Loretto, so you're likely seeing some wind gust. We've got some minor rotation even south of Loretto that we're watching closely. Let's go over and see if Ryan or Tawana have any additional information. Have there been any damage reports? I've had none out of my family.
Yeah, zero at this point, Kevin. The only report we had out of these storms is a 49-mile-per-hour gust in Hart County, and that's not even with the storms with the tornado warning. That's with these storms that you see behind me here. We're continuing to monitor the southern edge of these storms to see if they continue to show any signs of strengthening. And at this point, we're not seeing anything overly impressive with this. Hence the lack of any warnings down here. So right now, this is kind of the single segment of storms that we're monitoring with the tornado warning that's moving a little closer to the Springfield area now. So again, if you're in Springfield, like we've been telling you here, you're not under a tornado warning yet, but you need to be on standby for one if it does continue to show signs of strengthening here. But so far, we've not had anything to show for it. We've been watching, of course, the reports coming in from the public on MPING. We've been watching the National Weather Service, and we are in constant communication with them. And right now, this is certainly 2 warnings, but nothing to show for them just yet. We have eyes on the ground in multiple areas, though, Kevin, so we should know pretty quickly if anything does indeed occur here.
Yeah, I'm going to just read you a text I'm getting from my brother who's on the road down there. He says, I just drove from Loretto to New Haven, turning onto Line Station Road. Pretty good thunderstorm, heavy rain, not much wind at all. The Weather Service being very cautious on this one, keeping this tornado warning going for some reason back across parts of Marion County. I'm not going to let our guard down because we do see some rotation. It's not tight enough to touch the ground at this point. By ground reports, there's nothing on the ground. There have been no reports of damage. I don't want you to take it too lightly, but I think we can all rest a little easier with eyes on the ground. We always say there's nothing better than the ground truth. We can have the most expensive radar on the planet, but nothing beats a set of eyes looking at the sky. And that's what we've got on this storm down, moving from Loretto all the way up toward New Haven. So as you make your way right over 52 and go to New Haven, that's the area that we've been watching. Again, there's just not a lot happening. It's heavy rain, not even a lot of wind coming out of this storm as reported to the south. So let me pan the radar. We'll keep watching it because we do our due diligence here and the warnings are going off and people are looking for the information. We're being transparent in the information that we know at this point, and that is, yes, the Weather Service has issued a tornado warning. No, we haven't confirmed it. It's radar indicated, which we have on the screen. You can see it's affecting 662 people. It's mainly in parts of western Marion County, southern parts of Washington County. This, at this point, continues to weaken. Now, we've seen some upticks at times. I'm going to the scope, and then I'm going to look at the velocity again. And I'll just broaden it across this entire range from Manton down to Loretto. There it is. And again, sure, we see a little pop of wind there, possibly some rotation. Looks very weak at this point. It's sort of broadened out. It's diffused. It's not even what we would look at as a couplet to see the warning. So with that said, we'll just have to wait for the National Weather Service to decide whether they're going to let this go another, 12 minutes, or if they're going to cancel it. So let's see what happens with that. But for now, the warning is there. That warning goes until 2:15. When we go back to our home view, let me just point out that we do have thunderstorms that are also severe, that likely have some gusty winds on either side of that tornado warning. We have storms that stretch all the way up to Cincinnati and all the way back down approaching Bowling Green. Many of them are not severe. They all contain lightning and heavy rain. They are pushing through, and for all intents and purposes, it is along and south of the parkways, and it will be out of here within the next hour, hour and a half. So all of this is moving off to the south and east. That will be pushing out of the area. That'll take any threat of severe weather with it, and in fact, the threat of severe weather is fairly low, even though we have warnings that are going on. The threat of severe weather, again, for Louisville, anywhere to our north, is non-existent. We're just not going to have any. Most of us will dry it out for the remainder of the day. All right, back to that storm. Let's just zoom in one more time. I know we've got Wave Country coming up, standing by, and we'll get you to that in a matter of minutes. Let's just zoom back in. I want to go through these warnings that we have. You see both the severe thunderstorm and the tornado warnings. So we do have severe thunderstorm warnings now past Bardstown. Let me move this so we can see some of the cities. I'll just grab it and pan it over. Bear with me as we move the radar. So Willisburg, yes, you're going to see some gusty winds, heavy rain. Springfield, some of the heaviest rains just now moving in. Lebanon be on standby, heavy rain. New Market, Raywick, all seeing heavy rain and approaching thunderstorms with lightning and gusty winds. At this point, no tornado damage has been reported. We've been on the phone with family down there a number of times already, and I just go back to look at the scope again. This is really what tells the story in terms of how much rotation we have. And I'm going to scan all of this area. So again, I'm looking outside of the warning. We go into the warning. We go down toward Marion County. There's Manton, Loretto. That's where it would be if it were going to happen, close to Manton, Loretto. We see some gusty winds that just passed Raywick. Happens to be where my best friend lives. And we've got other wind that's going to be preceding that line, moving over toward Lebanon. Gravel switch. All right, let's go to Ryan Hoke. Ryan, any kind of damage reports? I think the answer is no, because I've got family and friends all in that area.
Yeah, the answer is no. We've even been looking at power outage numbers too, because a few minutes after these storms go through a particular location, if they are severe, you would typically see power outages spike, right? Well, as we load the current data in, you'll notice that only Grayson County is lit up, and that's only 167 customers without power there right now. And you'll note the other counties where this has gone through, like Southern Hardin, only 43 customers. LaRue, 0 customers without power right now. That's a good thing. Not seeing those numbers light up in any meaningful way definitely tells us that there's just not a whole lot of wind energy here. The 49-mile-per-hour gust we had in Hart County is the only wind gust report that we have received so far.
And they just canceled it.
And they just canceled the warning there. So no surprise there given the radar scans, Kevin.
Yeah, and it'll take it a minute because our computers won't allow it to fall off until it actually ends. But the Weather Service telling us, all right, we've just gone ahead and expired that warning, and as should be. I mean, there's just nothing happening with it at this point. Now, that doesn't mean as it continues to move into untapped air, very warm, very juicy, that we would not see, again, a extension or another tornado warning issued. But at this point, that tornado warning has been allowed to expire, all right? It ended early because likely of the reports that we've been receiving from family and friends in the path of that storm. I'm going to zoom into it one more time, and we'll wrap up our coverage here, but obviously we're standing by. We've got our team here ready to respond as needed with any severe weather. We knew that this was a possibility today, especially along and south of the parkways. Bardstown's out of the woods. Loretto just about out of the woods. Lebanon, you're next in line. New Market next in line. Gravel switch, Bradfordville. You've got 10, 15 minutes to prepare. Springfield, it's moving in on you now. Again, that's a severe thunderstorm warning. That means winds 60 miles an hour possible. It's going to happen in only pockets, not everywhere along that line, but that's something we'll be watching as this moves through. All right, one final sort of look into the storm, and I'm just going to, for my sake, look at the velocity one more time so we can feel comfortable getting you back. And as I do that, we're just going to scan the far eastern part of this warning. There it is. Yeah, and it's outside of a little bit of wind approaching St. Mary's. We've got some wind that's approaching Springfield, pushing through. Heavy rain there. Wind will eventually approach Lebanon. You could see 40, 50 mile an hour winds there as this storm moves through. But all in all, the tornado warning has been allowed to expire. On the big board, you can see technically it had 7 minutes. Weather Service said let it go. We have the severe thunderstorm warning for parts of LaRue, Marion, Nelson, Washington for another 22 minutes. Let's go back around with Ryan and Tawana, get their latest reports, and then we'll get you back to programming here on WAVE.
Yeah, at this point, Kevin, we're going to continue to monitor these storms, but what we have not seen today are reports of anything meaningful coming out of them. We've been mentioning a good chunk of the afternoon here how there's untapped air. There's very warm, moist air. Campbellsville, Greensburg, Columbia, folks in Lebanon, just south and east of Springfield as well. You guys need to continue to keep an eye on things. The WAVE Weather app is a great resource for that. And if you are issued any warnings for your location, we'll be back on the air as necessary here, but we are just not getting the ground truth on this. And for this to be moving into an area like that, and we're not seeing just the uptick in storm activity that you would typically see with this, means that there's something missing ingredient-wise in the atmosphere for today. And that's some good news. We want to get out of this without any damage, and hopefully that'll be the case, Kev.
All right, and Tawana, you're good on social. Anything else on your end?
On my end, yes, everything is A-okay. We haven't seen any reports of anything happening in the area, so that is certainly some good news. A lot of people just really concerned about that tornado warning, and it looks like that's been expired. So I think otherwise than that, just some strong wind gusts with some of those storms, and then that's about it.
All right, just got a text from my best friend who lives down in Raywick. That's just south of Loretto. No problem, says raining lightly there, and they have a little lightning. Outside of that, no problems there. So that's what we have going on. Let me zoom back to our home view so I can put everybody at rest here. The tornado warning has expired, even though it's still on the screen. It's going to stay drawn there until it falls off at another 6 minutes. Regardless, a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings to the south. The line of thunderstorms with lightning moving through. We'll be carefully watching our southern counties. We still have Greene, Taylor, parts of Marion, and Adair counties that could still see some severe weather this afternoon. Outside of that, that. Everybody else is in the clear. We're going to say goodbye for now, but we'll jump in as needed right here on WAVE. I'm Kevin Harned. For all of us on the WAVE Storm Tracking team, thanks for watching.
Stay ahead of the storm.
Let's start with the alert day information you need.
Damaging winds will be the main threat that we have to watch.
Alert days, only from the WAVE Storm Tracking team.
Can we get 2 10-sacks, please?
Would you like a Crave Clutch instead? It holds 20 sliders. 20 sliders. 20 sliders.
Need to get 20 sliders.
Jeff, I hate to cut you off here. This is just what it is. That's an alert day. Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harned.
Bouncing around. We'll get back to you in just a second, Dawn. Eastern parts of Marion County, let's just zoom into this. We were watching it and talking about how it was all fading and there was not a whole lot of rotation, and we had people down there watching it. You can see a little bit of a notch in the storm trying to develop there. So let's look at the velocity on that. I've zoomed way in. This is only for now eastern parts of Marion County. Let me move just so we can see some of the more populated areas. There's Lebanon. So now let me go back into the velocity on this. And while they let the warning expire early, right at its original expiration time, we've got a new warning that's come out, and this is for parts of Boyle County. It also includes the far eastern parts of Marion County. So let's again just take a closer view. This is the area of concern. Strong winds approaching the Lebanon area. We look down again. That's the area that's sort of ticked up in intensity, but the rotation is still on the broader side. So that's the zone that we're watching. That is the velocity that's moving. That is where we have the tornado warning. If you're in Lebanon, strong winds moving in, lowest level, away from windows. We'll move this right across the county border eventually as it passes by eastern parts of Marion County, going through Pennock and Gravel Switch just north of Bradfordsville. Obviously, the most populated town in all of Marion County is Lebanon, and that's where we have the strongest winds pushing through with heavy rain now. So again, sirens may be resounding there. That's because a new tornado warning was issued for eastern parts of Marion County, moving over into parts of Boyle County. Again, a pretty good blast of wind moving through right past the Lebanon area and now just off to the south of that. Ryan, I see you're watching that as well.
Yeah, it's a 36-mile-per-hour shear on this right now, so we're continuing to watch this thing kind of tighten up a bit. This is perhaps the most impressive amount of rotation that we've seen in any of these storms today. So if anything merited a warning, I guess it was going to be this, it looks like here. So that's going right along 68. And man, we just got a new scan in there. That's a pretty powerful wind. It is now starting to actually take advantage of that warm, moist air, and we're really starting to see more of that wind sort of punch down from these storms here. Still no reports of anything yet, but this is happening in real time. So 66-mile-per-hour winds sampled by radar just south and east of Lebanon, Kevin.
Yeah, and Ryan, I'll just ask you to make a call down there to some of the emergency management. We'll jump back on with you because now it is tightening up where we can actually see what could be decent wind at least, if not some rotation. So I'm going to zoom into that part. This is right along 68. If you're familiar with that area down in Marion County, you're just to the east of the Lebanon area. This is the greatest potential for wind. We go back into that with our scope. So let's just take a look at the radar scope and the velocity we go. And just bear with me. I know we're sort of zoomed in, but I want to give you where we have the greatest potential for some of that wind and rotation. It's right there. So it's just past Lebanon off to the southeast side. Strong winds, possible rotation there would be right along 68. This is 68. So this takes you right into Lebanon, all right? If you're on the east side of Lebanon, that's where you have to be most concerned. This is tightening up. That is the, I don't want to use the word best, but that is the greatest confidence that we've seen on the radar from the signature all day. So if there was a warning to be issued, this would probably be a decent scan of the radar to do so on, and it's right there, and you can see it moving right east of Lebanon. The bulk of the city is in the clear at this point. We're making calls to see if there's been any damage. Even with just the forward motion of the wind, we could see some damage out of this storm. All right, so that's what's happening down across Marion County. That is the tornado warning. It is the lone tornado warning that we have. That storm is moving off to the east at 35 miles an hour, and the warning will go until, and that's 2:45, all right? So For Marion County, it'll be out of there before that time because it extends across the county line. New update on the radar, you see it. So let's just track it. I'm going to pan the radar over. I know I'm zoomed in very tight, so for folks in Marion County, you'll be familiar with where we are. Other folks are going to be like, where are we? This is Marion County, Kentucky. I have to say that because we have Marion County, Indiana, and Indianapolis. No, we're not worried about them. This is Pennock. This is 68. This takes you right over into parts of Boyle County. You'll notice the warning continues all across, all the way over toward Gravel Switch. Hasn't arrived in your area yet over toward Gravel Switch, but it will. The storm is moving in. I may be zoomed in just a little bit too tight, so let me zoom back out and then we'll go back in. Just to get our bearings, here's the home view. All of the action south of Louisville. Nothing here. Finally clearing out. Thunderstorms with a lot of lightning and wind to our south. A few severe thunderstorm warnings. In fact, when we look of where to go, if you're in eastern Marion County, you've got to get to the lowest level. That's inside. Maybe it's a bathroom, maybe it's a hallway, could be under a stairway. You just want to be sure you get to the lowest level. Skies are much darker to the south than they are here. That's our SkyTrack camera in E-Town. Marion County is our only county under a tornado warning, and that is for another 24 minutes. So that's what we're watching down to our south in Marion County. This is a tornado warning. We have a severe thunderstorm watch in place. That means weather is possible in terms of severe weather. We noted that that was issued this afternoon. We waited a little while and boom, the warnings started to fire to our south. And that means it's happening. You have to take immediate action when we have warnings. There are a few power outages, most of those centered down in parts of Grayson County where we've seen about 4% of our customers. That's 702 of you without power. Otherwise, notice how warm and unstable the atmosphere is to the south. Somerset, Danville, 81, 82, Lebanon, 66. That's that strong storm moving in, feeding off of not only those warmer temperatures, but the moisture in the air. Dew points down that way are in the 70-degree category. And again, you can see the only warning that we have to the south. I'm going to zoom back into it while I'm looking at that. Ryan just hung up the phone. Let's go over to him and see if anybody was able to speak to him.
Yeah, Kevin, I'm off the phone with both the Sheriff's Department and the Fire Department there in Lebanon. They have 0 reports of damage. I just looked at the Kentucky Mesonettes, the real-time wind gusts. They've had a 41-mile-per-hour maximum wind gust right there near Lebanon. And this is right where that pocket of extreme wind was moving through. So far, no reports of damage and no reports of severe level wind gusts just yet. And this is real ground truth. The folks at the fire department monitoring all the radios, no calls into them just yet.
All right, good news there. We appreciate that. We just continue to scan the skies with the radar. This is the best we can do outside of reaching people that are in the path of the storm saying, hey, what is happening? And we've been doing that all day. I've even put my family and friends to work down there because obviously that's where I'm from, Southern Nelson, Marion County. We've got family all along the track of this baby, and there's been no reports of damage. In fact, it's been less than what some storms are when they're calling me saying, hey, what's going on down here? All right, so let's just go back into it because we just have to keep scanning. This is one of those things. This is how weather works. It changes by the second, not just the minute. I mean, 2 minutes goes by, which is when we're on our fastest scan of the radar. It's about 2.5 minutes. It's what it takes to get a scan in. Sometimes a tornado can touch down and lift back up in that amount of time. So we really have to watch. We've seen that even in Louisville this year where we've had a number of reports. Very strong winds still being picked up on the radar moving east of Lebanon, north of Bradfordsville toward Gravel Switch. So bounded by, well, between the two. This is going to be that heavy punch of wind that Ryan mentioned where we at least have measured 40+ mile-an-hour winds at the surface. Keep in mind that the radar situated in Fort Knox, as it goes out in distance, it goes up in height because, believe it or not, the Earth is curved. So as we go out in distance, we go up in height. So we're shooting a little high here, but it's as low as we can get. Otherwise, we drive the beam into the ground. So this is what we're seeing. And it's showing some very strong winds. Should we tap into those, which we do in thunderstorms because we get strong updrafts and downdrafts, we can bring these strong winds down to the surface, and then you wind up with either straight line winds, microburst, or if there's enough shear in the atmosphere, tornado. And we do have shear in the atmosphere today, and we've seen on the radar indicators that would show some of that rotation, hence the tornado warning as opposed to just another severe thunderstorm warning. So this is the pocket of wind we're watching. I just went through all that because I felt like you needed to understand what we were looking at. The sort of delineation would be 68. It's U.S. Highway 68. Goes right into Lebanon, right over to Gravel Switch up to Perryville. This, again, is a blast of wind that will move through 40, 50 miles per hour. Tawana Andrews still here. She's been monitoring a lot of the social media that we get. We always appreciate your reports, whether you submit those on the Wave Weather app, whether you're jumping onto our Twitter, Facebook. We're live everywhere all the time when there's severe weather. Anybody chiming in with any kind of damage from today, Tawana?
So far, not yet. I have gotten a couple of pictures from the LaRue County, Hardin County area with the storms that we saw earlier. Those moved through. Thankfully, no reports of any damage. Did have one viewer, so if you're still up and you're watching us, who reported some crazy winds, as she called it, in portions of Lebanon, and hasn't gotten a response just yet. So waiting to get a little bit more information, but so far no damage being reported. So that's certainly some good news. But this strong wind gusts certainly knocks some things over still. So that's something to be careful with as these storms roll through.
Yeah, it's not surprising that we're getting folks saying these are crazy winds because we've had the 41-mile-per-hour gusts, but we just haven't had evidence of damage or severe level winds. That's 58 miles per hour or greater just yet with these storms as they traipse on through eastern parts of Marion County, Kevin.
Yeah, however, the radar is showing the strongest winds we've seen all day, at least from the radar view, which I was explaining sort of that we're shooting into the up a bit than if it were a closer storm to us. But nonetheless, we can see those winds on the radar. It's just a matter of are they reaching the ground? And at this point, there's no ground truth in that. However, it's always best to be safe than sorry, and that just means some of them could reach the ground. And that's why sometimes you get the warnings that are radar indicated, and that's what we've had here. Again, we've talked about the tornado safe place. I won't go back through that. Let me just zoom in as we recenter the storm, noting that all of southern Indiana, some people are like, my gosh, what's going on today? They've been on all afternoon now for an hour or more, and are we going to have severe weather? The answer is only a small part of the viewing area even has the chance, and that's areas to our south, parts of Marion, Greene, Taylor, Adair, those folks, and it's almost out of there. So really it's going to leave Adair and where we have the warning now, which would be far eastern Marion County, they're the only ones that even have the chance to see severe weather in our viewing area at this point. Now, will they see severe weather across eastern Kentucky this afternoon? Probably, but we won't be on the air worried about that. Let's just zoom in as we go back to the zoom tool, and I'm just going to focus in. Lots of lightning with this cluster of storms too. You can see it. So I mean, if you had to be outside, yeah, just take some, let this storm pass, let it take the lightning with it, because that's quite a concentration of lightning bolts blasting down. A lot of cloud to ground lightning with that storm. Zoom back in, centered it up. That looks good. The storm moving, there's the county line, so eventually it'll be moving over into parts of Boyle County. You find Perryville, Harrodsburg to the north, Jacktown, Beach Bottom, Hudsonville, all of that. There's Danville, so you see where the storm is going. Once it escapes Marion County, we'll be able to get back over to Dawn, who's cooking in the kitchen. We can smell it in here. Let's go back to our radar scope, velocity scope, and we will zoom in just to see that pocket of wind again. There it is. So it hadn't gone anywhere. I was going to leave this up until the scan comes back around, because that's the pocket of heavy wind. It's where it was, so it's likely about here by now. We'll see that with the next scan. Takes a while for the radar to get enough scans to get that data that it needs to really get a clear indication of what the atmosphere is doing. But strong winds, regardless, tornado or not, may not show the greatest rotation. However, we do see that pocket of wind right along just south of 68, moving toward Bradfordsville and Gravel Switch, and really the strongest in between. Ryan?
Yeah, at this time, monitor the exact wind speeds on the radar. We're up to about 70 miles per hour just north of Bradfordsville. So again, this may not be making it to ground level, but we kind of have to assume that it is, because that is the potential that we could see with that 69, 70 mile per hour radar detected wind. I will say the radar is pretty far away from where these storms are, so that would be higher up in this thunderstorm where we've got that wind speed at this point, probably several thousand feet up, but it is something to monitor, Kevin. Still no reports of damage in Marion County just yet. We're monitoring all our feeds.
Yeah, and that's some good news. I'm seeing they've just issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Madison County, so that's just outside of our area. Again, as we looked at what was happening, a lot of severe weather is possible to our east, parts of eastern central Kentucky, across the Bluegrass region. For us, this will be about the last gasp that we have, and this area of wind is moving across eastern parts, and there's the update right on the county line. The strongest winds winds we've seen all day on radar. You start to get those orange colors in there, kind of peachy colors. Very strong winds. We're in this category here, so you can see that. Again, the reds and the greens indicating radar toward winds toward and away from the radar. So we don't have a ton of rotation showing up in this, but we do have a very large pocket of wind, and that is likely going to do some damage. Once we start to reach into that zone, as long as they're reaching the ground, we'd start to see some damage out of that, all right? The thing is it reaching the ground? And we've had no confirmed reports of that. We did measure over 40-mile-an-hour winds from the Mesonet station in Marion County, and as we continue to see this pass by the county line, eventually we'll be able to hand that warning off to the Lexington market, and those folks in Marion County will be safe. Loretta, Raywick, over toward Lebanon, all in the clear at this point. New Market, it's past you. You've still got some rain, you've still got some lightning to deal with, but this blast of heavy wind and any potential of rotation is now moving south of 68, just south of Gravel Switch, just off to the north and east of Bradfordsville at this point. So back to our home view. I'm going to take the radar, the scope down. I'm going to zoom out. And then I'm going to take the lightning off just so we can get a better glimpse of the radar. And as we do that, and let me just go back to the radar, boom, and then the lightning will go away. You can see that is the only tornado warning, though they've just issued a new tornado warning to continue that storm as it moves off to the east. So let's zoom back into that. This is going to be outside of our area, so once our tornado warning ends, we'll be able to transition to that new warning, which is outside of our viewing area. So again, you can see the polygon flashing. That's the newest tornado warning. That includes the Danville area, just south of Danville, so it includes a good chunk of Danville, by the way. Hudsonville along 127. That's the new tornado warning coming out for that storm we're watching. I'm going to cover it up temporarily as we go back to our velocities here, and I'm just going to put on the velocity. This will take the whole image away. That's what we're watching, and you can see it clearly. That's just a pocket of heavy wind, some rotation in there, but that is the potential. If there was going to be a tornado anywhere, that's where it would be. This is very heavy wind, the possible rotation just south of Gravel Switch, moving over into parts of Boyle County. It's going to stay just south of Danville. Nonetheless, that is where it will go. So it appears as though that tornado warning for Marion County is expiring. I see Ryan is on the phone. Tawana, have you had any reports before we go back over to Dawn G?
So from that particular area in Lebanon itself, one viewer, Ashley, thank you for sending this in, said that there was plenty of heavy rain, a lot of lightning as this storm moved through, but not seeing any damage near Glasscock Elementary or near Marion County High School either. So that's certainly some good news there. No major reports of damage there so far. So that is some good news as those storms continue to track off to the east. What have you heard?
Yeah, and I just talked to Chris at the Lebanon Fire Department down there, and he said nothing on their radios yet, no damage reported into emergency management or the fire department just yet. So we'll continue to monitor this. About 55 customers without power, by the way, in Marion County right now. So we're starting to see those numbers pop a bit, but even 40-mile-per-hour gusts could do something like that.
All right, let's just give one more look at the radar, and then Dawn is ready to go over in the kitchen again. So let me zoom back in, and I'll... Again, I did this a while ago, and we were right back on the air, but this will be the last guess for Marion County because there's nothing behind it, all right? So the tornado warning has expired or moved off to the east from Marion County. You can see the thunderstorms to the south. These are the ones we'll be watching. Said we'd be here. We're not going anywhere. So we've got really the only county in our viewing area to watch is Adair County. The rest of us are in the clear. Obviously, you see additional severe thunderstorms off to the south, close to Somerset. Some of these individual storms are strong, and those will continue to increase in intensity this afternoon. But for the rest of us, the system is passing us by. We're drying out finally after a very wet morning. Those thunderstorms continue to move to our south. Everybody's free of both severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings in our viewing area at this point. We still have a few folks under that severe thunderstorm watch off to our south. We're here to keep an eye on it. In the meantime, with no warnings, let's get you back to Dawn G in Wave Country.
All right, Kevin, we appreciate you and your team watching out for everyone. And everybody, just realize it may not be near your area, but we're taking care of everyone and keeping everybody safe. Again, Chef Casey Mader here, Chef It Up. It is